As usual, we're talking FAAB pickups, rival fantasy, and two-start pitchers here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Clay Link of RotoWire.com, here with the FSWA Hall of Famer, Todd Zola, Lord Zola himself. Good to be on with you, Todd, and happy Matt Mervis Day. I wanted to thank you for your quick response yesterday when I hit you up about our Matt Mervis projections. So kind of an interesting addition to the hitting pool, certainly, in Matt Mervis. How are you doing today?
I don't have any of Matt Mervis in my life, so I guess I'm still doing fine. I can still celebrate vicariously.
Still hanging in there?
I'm a fan of young players, and we got actually while we're is he debuting while we're talking? Is he in the lineup today?
You know, that's a good question. Because are they playing the 1:10 game?
Well, it's 2:10 in the East.
2:10 Eastern.
I mean, maybe it starts an hour earlier where you are, but
I saw that the call-up was confirmed, but the game must have started.
Yeah, it started. The great radio, folks. Actually, Clay and I just had kind of a podcast off the air.
Yeah,
we should have recorded that.
Totally.
Yeah, no. Anyway, so yeah, Matt Mervis up. Yeah, I mean,
you gave him what? Sorry to cut you off, but what? 75% of the playing time the rest.
Yeah,
of the
as we discussed. Yeah, I mean, I think I gave him 80% because left-handed batters get 72% in the platoon. He pinch hits, but as we were also saying, that doesn't add any "what if he struggles" hedge at all. Which maybe we need to back that off to 75%. Right now he's in the top 120. I don't know that anybody would take him in the first 8 rounds of a redraft if we did a 15-teamer, but I think he's top 150 to 200. So, you could pin him to Josh Young. I think that's a nice comparison. I would take Young over Mervis right now, but I don't think it would be wrong to do Mervis.
Yeah, on my kind of custom cheat sheet, that's where I put him. And yeah, Heart Foundation mentioned, I pulled up the box score here. Mervis in the lineup batting 7th today.
Okay.
So at first base batting 7th. And yeah, there's already a score in that game. So it is 1-0 Cleveland or Chicago. So maybe we'll keep you updated if Matt Mervis does anything. That run was scored on a Seiya Suzuki single to score Nico Horner. So, yeah, action already underway in Major League Baseball today. And we had FAAB pickups last night. I mentioned last week that I grabbed Gavin Stone. So, he, Brandon Pfaadt, Mervis, they were all gone in the RotoWire Stake League. So, the top pickup was Bryce Miller of Seattle. Nice outing for him. 10 Ks in his debut. Going to draw another start. And not like a nothing prospect by any means. We have him 55th overall on the top 400 at RotoWire. So, interesting arm there in Seattle that needs our attention, Bryce Miller.
Yeah, no, we talk. I have a suspicion Eric Halterman and I are going to talk about Bryce Miller, Pfaadt, and Stone kind of as a group coming into the week. Had you known that the three of them would be available, how would you have ranked the three?
Between Miller and
Brandon Pfaadt and Gavin Stone.
Stone. I would have said probably Pfaadt, Stone, Miller. Now right. I don't know so much. I mean,
well,
I still like Stone, but
hopefully we haven't changed too much after 1 week. The point being, I'll bet you in the NFBC where they all three might be available, Miller may top the bidding because he had the best outing of the three.
Yeah, that's how it works, isn't it?
I think Pfaadt may be a little higher than Stone just because of just hype, etc. But I'm not changing. I would still consider Brandon Pfaadt my number one. But it doesn't matter because he's gone in your stake league. And like you said, Miller is not a nobody. He was under the radar in that he was only in AA, and he wasn't one of those guys that had a chance to make the rotation out of the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of off the radar. But as you mentioned, James had him 55. The other guys we talked about were in the 20s. So they were better. But 55, I mean, that's still pretty good.
I want to mention that we are, of course, brought to you by Rival Fantasy. We'll be talking some Rival here in a bit. Then right behind Bryce Miller, was Michael King. And man, I really thought Clay Holmes broke out, but relievers are so volatile. And the second half was a little shaky for Holmes. So the way things are trending, I would not be surprised if Michael King took that closer job. He goes for 15 out of 100 behind Miller at 18 out of 100.
Yeah. All right. So Holmes got the vote of confidence, which we know means not a lot.
I saw in the note that it said the dreaded vote of confidence.
Yes. So Holmes, as you mentioned, slipped a little bit last year, but it was simultaneous with an injury. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to like a wait and see sort of thing. I don't mind the pickup of King. I do think 15 out of 100 is a bit hefty, but I'm not in the league. I don't know the dynamics. It's obviously defensible, but it just seems a little high unless there's just a strong feeling he'll close.
Yeah, he is pretty nasty. And the way things are trending, I do think he'll probably get in that role eventually, but yeah, we'll see. The guy who picked him up is a really good player. Quinn.
They're all good players. Honestly, I think they're all good players.
Yeah, I'm not crapping on anybody else in this league. I'm just saying Quinn's like always at the eaters table. He's never buying.
There you go.
Ezekiel Duran out in Texas playing pretty well. He goes for 14. Lamont Wade for 9. Andres Munoz for 6. For Michael King at 15 compared to Munoz at 6. Munoz could be kind of a nice little value there. Yeah, I picked up Louie Varland for 6.
Yep, I don't want to say got lost in the shuffle. He's not a rookie. He's young, but yeah, he's come up and he and Bailey Ober, are in the rotation. I mean, I don't know that Maeda is, if we know for sure how long he'll be out, but I'm not at all confident in his coming back and how well he pitches if and when he does come back.
And Tyler Mally's shut down for at least 4 weeks, so that's a 4-week shutdown period. Then you think, a month and a half to ramp up, and that's assuming no setback. So it's going to be a long absence for Mally. He's on the 15-day injured list now, but I could see him move to the 60-day.
Maybe. I think they may want to see what's going on, and
but when you're shut down for a month, completely no throw for a month, that's
I don't know. Yeah, it depends. Yes, mostly, but I think unless they need the 40 spot, I think you wait and see a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Now, a guy making some names. I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't know exactly how to say his first name. I'm assuming it's Yanier Cano.
Yep.
Of Baltimore, really carving out his niche in that Baltimore bullpen, and looks like he's kind of positioning himself as the next man up. I actually had a runner-up bid or a kind of a waterfall bid on him last week, but I got a higher priority guy. So this week, Cano comes off the board at $6 as well. So I kind of like that. I mean, that's another just in waiting guy, but really good arm.
That's a ratio and strikeout play. Felix Bautista is the guy. Now, Bautista in Baltimore is winning. Cano has had a shot or two at a Bautista's tired save. And to be honest, you may get a save out of Cano tonight because Bautista, I think, took 32 pitches yesterday to lock down Baltimore's slugfest with Kansas City. So you may
look at those when he's not available.
Yeah, except Cano, and I think and the reason I know this is I now write a bullpen section for ESPN, and this is what we talk about. Cano actually pitched 2 innings last night in this victory, so he may not be available either. What I said was avoid Baltimore because Dean Kramer's pitching, and they're not going to win anyway.
Hey, we had a question in the chat from a friend of the program, the Hart Foundation.
All right.
We were just talking about Matt Mervis. He said he dropped Mervis for Miguel Vargas, and I'm wondering if that's a bad move. I'd say no, that's not a bad move. I think Miguel Vargas is really looking awesome.
Yeah.
After that slow start.
Vargas is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. No, not quite.
Hart Foundation.
But anyway, well, maybe Brett. I don't know if it's a bad move, but it's not a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's not a no-brainer. You're right.
I
just think the way Vargas is swinging it looks like his thumb's feeling a lot better lately.
Right, and if you're replacing him at corner, I mean, at some point Vargas, if he doesn't already, will have middle infield, and that helps a bit. Yeah, I think we can't even say that it's Mervis's upside because we're not sure what Vargas's upside is. I don't think it's a bad move, but I don't think it was a must move either.
So we had a slew of guys go for exactly 6. Andres Munoz, Louie Varland, Yanier Cano, and then I also got JP Sears dropping David Peterson. Sears has been a little all over the map. I'm going to have a tough decision because the Yankees, he lines up to face the Yankees next week, and their lineup right now down Judge and Stanton is pretty,
not scary.
Not scary. Yeah, it's tackleable, I guess you could say.
Not scary. Yeah.
So I'm going to have to decide on him, but Sears is showing a little something. Yes,
and he had a little something. It was kind of dormant, and now it's coming up again. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that, I don't want to strictly go by what, Dallas Braden says on the broadcast. He's an ex-pitcher. He knows what he's talking about, but he's also Dallas Braden, and sometimes he says things to, poke nerves, whatever. But he was impressed with Sears. Mm-hmm. So I think I have to take at his word and think that Sears has made some improvements.
So, yeah, I think I was setting some lineups before this podcast, and I had to make the call between Sears, Varland, and Gavin Stone for next week, or for this next 7-day period. I think I started Varland, actually. Forget what decision I came to. It was a tough one, though. Maybe, I like Stone, but they're not even and I assume because they didn't send him down that he is going to start against Milwaukee next week. But the fact that they're not listing him yet, he only had 1K. Yeah, I'd prefer to just wait another week and see if I can.
Sure.
So, and I kind of like what Varland's shown. So, but those are kind of 3 guys that are in the mix, all in the same kind of bucket for me. Run through the rest of these. Jason Hayward for 4. What a story he's been. Good for Jason Hayward. Oscar Colas dropped there. Gene Segura. I haven't been one league, and he's just been brutal, but I do think his baseline is decent. Ryan Feltner, Dane Dunning for 2, Stuart Fairchild for 2, Jesse Winker for $1, Michael Garcia, or it is Michael Garcia, of Kansas City. He's that was a James pickup, and I know James likes him as a prospect. So now that
Nicky Lopez,
Kansas City is finally going to turn this guy loose. It seems like.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's kind of interesting guy. I wouldn't expect a ton of power, but pretty good hit tool. Carlos Carrasco for $1, Dominic Fletcher 0, Francisco Alvarez. These are all $0 ads. Curtis Mead, Jason Foley, Matthew Liberatore, Alec Thomas, Noah Syndergaard, Taylor Trammell, Peyton Battenfield, Ryan Yarborough, and Matt Brash. So shout out to the RotoWire Stake League crew for being active as hell this week. And nobody wants to buy a steak dinner at the end of the year. So.
Yeah, but hearing some of those picks, they are going to be people.
I'm trying to avoid it. I'm trying to avoid it this year.
Doesn't mean I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's true. But
well, you know what? I don't know the context, and I also don't know the 7-day schedule. So the Feltner picks and the Battenfield picks, I shouldn't.
These guys, they're competitive, and
shouldn't take.
I've had to. Even as MLB editor, and I've had to eat, or I've had to buy the past couple of years. I had a great eater run of about 5 years, but past couple of years I've had to buy, and that's just not where I belong.
Now, is Listen this league or just the
No, football? He's not in this league.
All right, so buying isn't quite as bad in the baseball as it is in the football?
You'd be surprised, actually. A lot of wine bottles popped and whatnot.
Yeah, I've heard tell about the football draft, so...
I think it's fun though. If you got a group of buddies, you can do a stake league and get together once a year. It's a lot of fun.
Of course, I'm in New England. It'd have to be a lobster league, or even a fish fest league. Probably. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's talk some rival fantasy, and they are sponsoring the program. And I'll just mention this before we start. A new MLB season means it's time for a new kind of daily fantasy baseball. Rival Fantasy is a fantasy platform reinventing the way daily and weekly games are played, and they've brought a new game to the ballpark this year that fantasy players won't find anywhere else. Rival Fantasy's games include Fantasy Bingo, head-to-head player challenges, and Fantasy Book, where users can select over-unders for 2 to 5 players. That's the game Todd and I will be talking about here shortly. With games like this, daily fantasy has never been better. Right now, RotoWire listeners can get a $50 protected first play That means if you win your first play, you keep your winnings, but if you lose your first entry, Rival Fantasy will fully refund you up to $50. Go to play.rivalfantasy.com/signup and use code RotoWire MLB at sign up and deposit a minimum of $25 to get your first entry on Rival protected up to $50. Now's the time to step up to the plate and become a Rival today. Welcome to the arena. Todd and I are having fun dabbling in Rival for the first time. And as I mentioned, we are going to be focusing on the fantasy book. So picking a couple points projections that we want to go over or under on tonight. And Todd, who's your first guy in mind tonight on Rival?
So sticking with the pitcher theme in that I just find it safer to go over under on pitcher totals than I do hitters, although I will play hitters for the fun of it. I am going to pick Kyle Muller of Oakland to not reach 14.78 fantasy points at home against Kansas City. I think that there's too much that can go wrong. He doesn't get strikeouts. He could get knocked out early. I don't think he'll reach 15 or so points, even against the Royals lineup, which has got some players that can do some damage.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair point, and I certainly see where you're coming from. That feels like one where, even against Kansas City, it's kind of like right where it needs to be. That line, 14.66. Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that one because I'm not really sure going against Kansas City where Kyle Muller is. And my first pick was actually going to be Chris Sale, but the guy's been so Jekyll and Hyde, and I guess I'm really hoping for my season-long teams that it's actually a good Chris Sale night. It seems like a high over-under at 20.13 points. And as we were talking before the show, I said, I think maybe I'll take Sale on the under, but I think I'm going to skip that one because he has been so Jekyll and Hyde, and maybe we'll get the good Sale tonight. And I'm actually going to go under on Hunter Green instead at 20.23 fantasy points projected tonight. And that is against the White Sox, but it's at home. And, the White Sox just not as bad as they've shown. Of course, they've been just brutal. And I get why this number is where it is. But for Green to be the second highest point number on the board, just behind Burns, I feel like he hasn't really gotten there yet. I'd still kind of like Castillo to hit a higher point total. And, even like Christian Javier, I wonder if he could surpass Sale or surpass Green tonight. So I think I'll take the under on a Hunter Green at 20.23 points just because he is so fastball dependent, Great American Ballpark, and the White Sox not as bad as they've shown today.
Yeah, Eloy Jimenez is starting to turn it on. As we talked, I've got Green projected for 16 points, so I think that's a solid bet and one solid choice and one that I may choose to add another set of picks to my ledger. We shall see. Rich Hill,
guy's just great, but I just
Rich Hill is, and it's so boring to. No, you know what? It's not boring. It's somewhat boring to choose the under. You're choosing for the other team to get hits. Toronto's going to be a little bit angry being swept by the Red Sox, so I'm going to pick them to let loose. Very right-handed lineup. Rich Hill, the lefty flipping up those curveballs from different arm angles. I'm gonna say Toronto gets a little bit of payback and goes nuts on Rich Hill tonight. So I'm taking the under.
Nice. So you're low on a couple guys, and I think maybe I'm stealing this next one from you, but I think we can both agree. And I mentioned him kind of just briefly there before that. Christian Javier at 15.59 just feels low, doesn't it?
It does, but to me, even though it's 15, 50, I see 15.7. They do change.
Yeah, I should refresh probably.
To me, or maybe I need to refresh. I mean, that's it's just people realize it gets locked in when you make your play.
I see, yeah.
But often I'll go to the night before because it's a better or more favorable over under. But I'm not confident about that Javier. He's one of my choices, but I'm also a little not confident about you, Darvish. So I'm actually putting in two sets of three, replacing because I'm confident about Muller and Hill. And this comes down to the, not so much fantasy, but money management, how you can, I do really want to focus more on the fun aspect of it. But I think you do have to play a little bit of, money management, et cetera, bankroll management. So I'm putting Hill and Muller in by themselves, and I'm doing them with one with Javier and one with Yu Darvish at 13.96 to go over against the Dodgers. Those numbers, I think you can get them without the win just by pitching innings and getting strikeouts and, keeping run prevention to a minimum. When we're talking about Sale at 20 points and about his opponent, I don't know that Wheeler's listed, but 20 points to me, you need to get the win. And when you're going against Zach Wheeler, to me, that's tough. Even Louis Castillo and Christian Javier. Castillo, as you kind of mentioned, he's at 19 points. And to get 19, you kind of have to get the win for Seattle. And I'm not sure that that's a good pick when Javier's on the mound.
It's a little jarring to see Darvish so low. It is against the Dodgers. And the way you were setting that up, I almost thought you were going to say you were going to take the under.
No.
But that number is really low at 13
and,
points.
We should mention a little bit how the points are figured in that if who's setting the number of points feels that there's a, let's say, 60% chance that a pitcher wins the game, and I forget exactly, let's say they get 4 points for a win, they're projected for 60 times point or 0.6 times 4, so they're projected for 2.4 points. So some of the projected points is over and above how many innings and how many strikeouts and how many hits they give up. It's a wins projection goes into the expected fantasy points. So either you get it or you don't. And you don't get part of it. Either you get the whole thing or you get zero. So sometimes you can find an edge if you just feel that the point is too reliant on getting the win. You can take advantage up or down depending on which way you feel it is, which way you feel it should be going.
Thanks for explaining, how you see that. And it's a new game to me, this rival game, and I'm enjoying it. And Hunter Green under, Christian Javier over, the two I feel good about. So I think I'll probably do one entry where I have those two, and then maybe one where I do Green under, Javier over, and then Drew Smyly over, because he's only at 12.33 projected points versus Miami, and Smiley's pitched really well. So it seems like it's kind of a trap because it is Drew Smyly, but I think I'll do one where I have Smyly in there on the over.
I don't see Smyly on my list. So here I am refreshing, and maybe they've added Smyly. Sometimes they.
Oh no, you know what? I just refreshed it too, but I mean that game's going on right now, so I don't know how that would be. Either way, I'll just leave Smyly off
tomorrow. Yeah.
Sometimes, that's a Saturday game. That's a Saturday game.
Yeah,
he just got mixed in.
This is good for our. Yeah, no,
yeah. I did that with. I did that with Alek Manoah a couple weeks ago, where I had him on my list, but he wasn't actually starting that day. So that's
good to know. Just for people that are going to the site through us, they do start to put tomorrow's, so you have to sort of double check and make sure.
That's
that
you have to look at the day, because sometimes you'll see a Saturday in there randomly.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that 12.33 points for Smyly is different tomorrow. So if you really like him, lock him in now, because tomorrow it may be 14 points.
So mine are Hunter Green on the over and Christian Javier under 15.59, and yours are Kyle Muller under 14.78, Rich Hill under, and then maybe if you're doing another one, Yu Darvish over, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. Well, guys, check it out. I'm having some fun, and we appreciate their sponsorship with this, and I'm excited about this kind of new fantasy game. There's always new creations in the game, and this one's pretty fun. Before we move on, Kevin Reese had an interesting question in the chat. Is Kevin Gausman worth trading for Adolis Garcia? I would say no. Like, I've always been kind of skeptical on Adolis, but it's, he's just been producing for 3 years in a row now. I still think Gausman's the guy there, personally.
I think it's a needs deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the player for the player. It's can you find pitching elsewhere? Can you find hitting elsewhere? I would not be selling low on Gausman just because of his performance yesterday against Boston. He just simply didn't have it. He's a lot better than he looked last night. And I'm just not as a Red Sox fan. It was just one of those nights. But I do believe more in Garcia. If that's the best, if you need a bat and that's the best you can do, I don't think it's a terrible trade. But I think you could either get a better bat for Gausman or not have to deal Gausman to get Garcia. Nice.
Well, we appreciate Kevin chiming in and hope that shed some light on your decision there to make. Let's get into the 2-star pitchers for next week, Todd. Let me mark down the timestamp here so people can easily jump to this part. 26 minutes. And Arizona's got 2 guys right off the bat who are very interesting. Zach Gallen's like an easy 5. I actually bumped him up into my top 10 overall. I feel like if you're doing a draft today, Zach Gallen's not getting out of the top 10, so that's where I had to put him.
I think that's a little bit too much recency bias. Top 10 starting pitchers or top 10 overall?
Top 10 overall.
Yeah, no, to me that's too much recency bias. But he certainly pitched well to start the season. You gotta love these matchups too. These two matchups are not going to help my case at all.
Well, that's kind of my thought, was more so like, man, if I'm doing a draft and Strider and Cole go, who's really next? So Ohtani's up there too, of course, but then I put Gallen in that mix. Versus Miami, versus San Francisco, that's a 5. And then there's Brandon Pfaadt, who our top pitching prospect at RotoWire. And it's kind of like the new car thing where you drive it off the lot and it loses 90% of its value. He did give up 4 homers in his debut, but it's the same 2-step for him versus Miami versus San Francisco. I'm going to go with the 3 because I'm not putting too much stock into that 1 4-homer outing.
Yeah, he pitched really well between the 4 homers. I'm only saying that part tongue in cheek because you could see, some good stuff. You know what? It's a 3. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree. The matchups at home bring him to a 3.
Yeah, 2 at home against Miami and San Francisco. That's pretty darn nice. So if you've been holding on to Brandon Pfaadt, hopefully you sat him for this week, and now you can turn him loose and hopefully get some really nice fantasy production out of him. Charlie Morton versus Boston at Toronto. That's a tough one for him, but and your Red Sox have been playing pretty well.
Yeah, they're back to beating my Red Sox again.
Yeah, they've earned that again. So I think Morton. Initially, I was thinking 4. I think I'll go 3, though.
I'm going to stick with a 4, but I know where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Those are tough matchups.
It's the matchups, yeah. It's the matchups.
But Morton is right at the ship, and I think the good pitching still should remain good pitching. So I'm going to say 4. Now, we should point out that Atlanta has 2 off days next week, so there's a chance they try to stretch things out and put a Dylan Dodd or somebody in there.
Yeah,
so
Dodd pitched pretty well last night.
Yeah, so they may just keep a Strider and everybody else. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they add someone else just to help manage Strider's innings, etc. We'll see. But
yeah, that's a good thing to throw out. That's a good caveat because with 2 off days, very possible Morton doesn't end up getting that second start. They could
at Toronto,
give the whole rotation a little extra day built in if they gave Dodd or somebody the nod there. Kyle Gibson's 4-1, Todd, but he's got a 4.61 ERA, and then he's got and he's versus Tampa Bay and break up the Pirates. I mean, good grief. They're, I believe, the top of the NL Central, aren't they? I think they have to be.
I mean, Tampa showed they were still the better team, but that was it was an unexpectedly fun series in the middle of the week.
Absolutely. So I look at Pittsburgh and I'm it's not a matchup I'm scared of by any means, but they're not looking like a doormat right now.
Nope.
Kyle Gibson, they are both at home versus Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh. I'm having a notch below the Fott and Morton range, so I'm going to go 2 on Kyle Gibson.
We'll find a place to disagree at some point, but I too am going to. He doesn't get the strikeouts to me to be a 3. And Tampa, you know what? They don't. I mean, they grind. They grind, and they're good. So yeah, don't need me to tell you that.
Well, next up, let's see here.
Red Sox have
have 2 off days. Yeah, so I was looking at Brian Bayo, and he got the win last night. Any thoughts on how Bayo's looked his last couple outings?
The slider is coming along. It's not there yet, but that's what he needs to get batters off of that changeup, so he doesn't have to double and triple up as much. I think we're still seeing some growth, but we're seeing it at the major league level, and I think it'll be interesting. We got James Paxton coming back. We'll see what Boston ends up doing, and I think Whitlock is coming back too. So, this is a problem they didn't think they'd have. What do we do with all this pitching? It's not a problem that Alex Cora thought he would have.
Well, still kind of a little iffy because guys like Hal struggling.
Yeah, it's basically, it's not like where do I start? How do I find room for this ace? It's more about, I've got 7 number 3s. Which of them do I choose?
Good on Bayo, though, for turning it around his last 2 starts, 10 innings, only 3 earned runs allowed, and 11 to 3 K to walk. So after that disastrous start, Bayo's kind of back in, at least on the radar, certainly.
Yep.
And I do kind of wonder with 2 off days if maybe they skip Houck next week. We'll see. Marcus Stroman's going to be versus St. Louis at Minnesota. Man, he's really pitched well. It is Marcus Stroman, though, so you kind of know what you're getting. St. Louis has been bad, man. Wow. I think Marcus Stroman's a 3.
I think it's a 3 every week. I mean, I don't. You could have him against Pittsburgh. I can't say Pittsburgh anymore. Miami and San Francisco, or you can have him against the Yankees. Well, the Yankees aren't. Houston and the Red Sox, and I'm going to say 3 either way. That's just what he is.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. Now, Graham Ashcraft, he's not. In competitive leagues where everybody's making pickups, he's not going to be really out there in a lot of leagues. But
right.
You got to feel good if you were the early guy on Ashcraft and you got him. Any chance you'd sit him down versus the Mets and at Miami? I think that's pretty much like I'm going to go 3, but I was tempted to go 4.
I'm going to go. I'm not. Here's the difference. I wasn't tempted to go 4. I'm going to say 3. I mean, the Mets are like that offense that will score 4.5 runs every game. I don't see them getting shut out. I don't see them, scoring 15 either, but they're good. And they could score 15. Any offense that has Pete Alonso could go nuts on you any given day. And Starling Marte's healthy too. But no, I'm with you on a 3. I haven't, I need to, again, me watching a game doesn't really mean a whole lot, but I have not put my eyes on Ashcraft as much as I should have.
It's funny because the underlying numbers say he's kind of pitching over his head, but I think with his stuff, it's pretty legit. So I'm kind of...
Well, one of 2 things happen. Regression sets in or the skills improve.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing with Ashcraft in the beginning was betting on the come, was thinking he was going to improve as the year went on. So I think we're still in that boat. It just happens that the numbers are pretty good to begin with. So you're not like Alex Cobb last year, waiting for the regression to make the ERA drop. I mean, it's just there.
Daniel mentioned in the chat a good point about the Mets that I saw on Twitter last night. The Mets have been shut out 6 times already this year.
Yeah,
so maybe that
was in the back of my mind when I was saying that. The offense does not scare me.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, Graham, as a Reds fan, I'm hoping Graham Ashcraft makes it 7.
Yeah,
it is in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and they do have some batters that can get the job done. Anyway.
Yeah, the Mets offense certainly is got some boppers in there. So It is kind of weird how hot and cold they run, though. To be shut out 6 times, I think they were shut out like 9 times last year. It's kind of strange little
Yeah.
quirky stat for the Mets early on this season. Here's one people have been waiting on. If you've picked him up weeks ago or just recently, Tanner Bibee's first 2-start week. Has to be, right? Versus Detroit, versus the Angels. He's looked awesome in the bits I've seen of him. I really wish I'd gone on that speculative stash. I forget who got him for $2 in Stake League, but that's looking great. And I got him as a 4 with these matchups, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue otherwise because Ohtani only gets to hit once every 9 batters.
Yeah.
And the rest of Taylor Ward's beginning to find it again, and Trout's just playing Trout. Oh, gosh. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go 4 as well. We will find place to differ later.
Kyle Freeland at Pitt versus Philly. I mean, I could maybe see a scenario where I have him in a draft and holds, or I kind of have to start Freeland. I don't want to, but I think I may give him the. I was going to say like a sympathy 1 or a desperation 1, but maybe he deserves more than that. Maybe Freeland's a 2.
Here's where we differ. I'm still. I mean,
You got him as a 1 at least.
I got him as a 0. I've heard him. Okay. I mean, I've heard him interviewed, and I think he's a smart guy, and blah blah blah. But no, and even at Pittsburgh, that's not a pushover anymore. I can't say you get by Pittsburgh and then I'm going 0.
I'm lowering it to 1 because I don't want to be the high, like really high on Kyle Freeland.
You don't want to be canceled on Twitter.
But I got you down as a 0, so we'll recap these at the end of the show. Dylan Cease at Kansas City versus Houston. Second half of that, not so great, but that first one is great. And credit to you for being the guy who's like, why is everybody so head over heels over Cease? He walks the world, and man, those walks really caught up to him.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking a victory lap just yet, but with Cease and Strider, I think the jury is still out. Strider with innings and Cease, so a lot of it. Well, and we have to keep in. The NFBC loves its strikeouts; they always have, and that's what we're basically when we look at ADP. That's what we're comparing it to, and there was risk involved. For years, Darvish went higher than I thought he should because he struck out batters and people didn't care about the walks. Then, of course, Darvish learned not to walk people. Anyway, so even with Houston, isn't it still a 4? I don't remember what you said at this point.
I didn't say 1 because I was kind of waffling, to be honest.
Okay, well, I'll put my foot down. I just got new Skechers. I can't wait to try them later. Speaking of feet down, I'm going to go
4 on Cease.
I'm going to go even with Houston. I'm going to go 4.
Okay, I think I'm going to go 4 too, but I'm going to go 3 on Giolito, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I like Giolito. I mean, he's been pitching pretty well, but
I think he's
still have a tier below.
Yeah. He's a step down. But yeah, I mean, maybe he's not the Giolito from a couple years ago, but he's certainly more comfortable than last year.
Yeah, totally. So we agree on Cease 4, Giolito 3, it sounds like. Michael Lorenzen, I believe he was on the list last week, so another example that all this is extremely tentative. At Cleveland versus Seattle. Again, that's Michael Lorenzen of Detroit. That's going to be a 0.
All right, we're gonna flip on Freeland. I'm gonna give him a 1. Maybe it's because I think he's better than he's shown.
You're gonna give Freeland a 1.
Give him a 1. No, Lorenzen a 1.
Oh, okay.
No.
Freeland's still a 0 for you.
I was 0, so we're flipping our numbers on these two. So yeah, I'm gonna go 1 on Lorenzen.
I got you. Okay, so let me plug that in. Todd 1 on Michael Lorenzen. By the way, I always include all these with the show notes. So if you kind of want to see these for yourself afterwards and not have to write them down, you can just find them in the show notes. Framber Valdez is a 5, right? At the Angels, at the White Sox. Lefty's pitching like we all expected.
So and I think because pickups might not be 2-start guys. I think if Brandon Bielak's available, and why wouldn't he not be? I think he's a viable pickup this week, just to get his 1 start against the Angels.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for sure. Maybe I'll have him in on my list in the Tout Wars head-to-head where I've
whereas
decimated.
It's a JP France. Is that where I'm not?
Yeah, JP France.
I'm not as interested in France, even though it's against the White Sox. I'm more interested in Bielak. And Bielak isn't great, but I think he's palatable.
Zach Greinke and Jordan Lyles have 9 losses between them and 10 decisions. Is that good?
No, and I mean, not that they weren't the guys I was targeting on the Royals, but I've been disappointed in the Royals pitching in general. I thought the new pitching coach would have a greater positive impact than he has. I guess there's still time.
So an off day for the Angels, so nobody, and with the Dodgers, with Gavin Stone in that mix, presumably still for next week since they haven't set him down. No 2-star pitchers for them either. Kind of wondering if I think they probably keep Gonsolin in that rotation to get stretched out, but I think Syndergaard could be on his way out of that mix.
Yeah, that's somebody. The one is Syndergaard, right? I mean,
just not Thor anymore.
All right, so we got Milwaukee. So who's going to do the running for Milwaukee that night?
Yeah, that's always something you want to check out. Maybe I'll have to go down, and if Stone starts on Wednesday, Milwaukee's only an hour drive from Madison. Maybe I'll
there we go.
Make an appearance at American Family Field.
There you go. Yeah.
Check out Gavin Stone next week. Braxton Garrett. So Braxton Garrett of Miami, we have him locked in for 2. He just gets something jotted down here. It's at Arizona versus Cincinnati. That's a pretty good one for Braxton Garrett, who I know some smart people were on him. He did have a really rough outing recently, 11 earned runs, actually. I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah, he wore that one. I think that was you take him 1
4 homers.
Yeah,
4 third innings, 11 earned runs.
Yeah.
That's wearing it if I ever saw it. So, yeah, I kind of like those matchups, and maybe you buy low because after that blow up, you probably sneak him through on the dirt cheap. Don't think I could really turn him loose, though, so maybe a 1.
I'm going to go with like you were saying before, the Draft Champions one, where I have him now. Arizona's tough, but they're not as tough against left-handed pitching. And just Cincinnati. Well, it's in Miami, so I don't mind it.
Well, real quick, before we finish off the rest of the 2-star pitchers for next week, the week of May 8th, 2023, let's first throw to a quick word from our Blue Wire sponsors. All right, welcome back to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Clay Link here with Todd Zola. Now that we've got that little piece of business out of the way, we can power through the rest of the 2-star pitchers for next week. No 2-star pitchers for Milwaukee, but then Minnesota, Louie Varland, who we talked about in the pickups portion of the show. I grabbed him for 6. Now he's made 2 starts. Numbers overall don't look great, but a 14-3 K to walk. Has given up 4 homers, but not a nobody here. Versus San Diego, versus the Cubs. Even though I picked him up, I'm still probably only going to go with like a 2 because I don't want to get carried away here, but I do think he's a guy to add if you can.
I see the 2, but I think I'm going to go 1.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I need to do a little bit more research on Varland. I looked at him when he came up, and I remember saying, yeah, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know there was some people that were a little higher on him during the most recent FAAB run. So I'm going to stay with the 1.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. And just like you probably higher on Ober significantly, just generally. I know you've always liked it, Bailey.
Yeah, Ober. I mean, I did not. It was not a requirement for me to get him in every single draft this year like it was last.
Uh-huh.
But I still think there's something there. And trouble repeating delivery. The walk rate did not come down as I had hoped, but I still think there's some potential there.
Now, when I saw Max Scherzer's name pop up, I was almost a little tempted to say, like, I don't know if he's a 5 type of guy anymore. But I am going to say, for the time being, at Cincinnati, at Washington, yeah, it's a tough place to pitch, but it is the Reds. I'm still going to go 5. If Scherzer can't get it done here, I may have to say, like, all right, he's just not that all-world starter anymore. But I still think Scherzer could kind of be the guy who kind of turns it on and shoves here for a long period.
Yeah, we had this conversation with Eric Halterman, and I, Eric was kind of the same way. Maybe he's not an ace anymore. I think the first part of the season has been so up and down spotty that I don't know that we can judge fairly. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's innocent until proven guilty. In this case, guilty until proven innocent. He is still an ace until he shows otherwise.
I hear you. I just thought he was. I know the pitch clock may be affecting him and others adversely. So
maybe.
Aversely. Nestor Cortez versus Oakland. You love that. Then versus Tampa Bay. I think I'm going to go with a 3 on Nestor. Kind of still finding it after his injury in spring training. So, love the Oakland start, not so much the second half. So I'm going to go with a 3.
And do you have Schmidt down for 2 as well?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go a 3. I'm a little disappointed in Schmidt, to be honest.
Oh God, me too. And Schmidt, I mean,
yeah,
his command is. I mean, he doesn't have any command right now.
I didn't expect Garrett Cole redux, but I thought it would be a usable pitcher. And even with that Oakland, how can you say even with that Oakland start? He has a start against Oakland. All right, you know what? I got to give him a 1 because of that. But I mean, I thought he was a nice little 3 pitcher for most of the year, and he has not been that so far.
Yeah, man, I got a 1 on Schmidt and a 3 on Nestor, but it's. And what were you? Sorry.
No, it's the same.
Same,
but
okay,
I expected Schmidt to be in a 2 to 3 range.
Yeah, I really wanted. I was kind of wish casting maybe, but I thought he would be. Really kind of was hoping for more out of him. This will kind of be the last hurrah here. If he can't get it done, I'll have to drop him. But yeah, he's been disappointing. JP Sears, up and down a little bit, but he's at New York, decimated New York team, then versus Texas. I feel like in the NFBC where he's still available, he'll be picked up pretty much everywhere with this 2-step against that decimated Yankees team. I'm gonna go with a 2 on Sears. I like him a little more than a guy like Schmidt, but I was tempted to go 3 initially.
Revenge game.
He was a Yankee, right? He was.
I'm going to say
deal or something.
Yeah. I'm going to say 2 and not be tempted. Was it Severino? I don't remember. It was Severino. Maybe it was Montas.
Montas, that's who it was.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2, but I wasn't tempted to go higher.
All right. No 2-star pitchers.
Well, you want to just do the 0 for Rosinski?
Pardon me, a sneeze. What did you say?
You just want to officially give Rosinski the 0?
Yeah, let's do that. I had already marked it down on the sheet. That's why.
You know me too well.
For Philly. So Mitch Keller for Pittsburgh. And I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop for Keller, but maybe it's time I give him a little bit more credit. And versus Colorado at Baltimore, at Waltimore. Shout out John McKechnie. Maybe a 3 on Keller. I got to start giving him more respect.
You're getting there. I'm going 4.
Okay.
You're getting there, my friend.
Yeah, he's not a bad pitcher. I just think he's kind of been a work in progress perpetually, and he just
I think
maybe he's finally kind of finding himself.
I think we're seeing some progress.
Michael Wacha at Minnesota at the Dodgers. He's one guy where I feel like he could be available, but I don't know if I'd really want to dip my toes in there. I'll go with a 1, just in the main, maybe where I just where I have like a dead spot on my bench. Maybe I'll pick up Wacha.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got him as a 1.
I'm going to give him a 1, but I don't like it. I mean, I would not pick him up. I would have to think about using him if I have him in a draft and hold.
I don't know if I'd really start him here, but but yeah, I mean, a 1 kind of reflects that. I mean, I could see where he comes in and has a decent week. So I'll give him a 1. Logan Gilbert versus Texas at Detroit. Love those matchups. Logan Gilbert's probably a 4. Is he higher than that for you?
Yes.
He's a 5. Wow.
Yeah. Low end 5, but I'm not afraid of the matchup. Detroit. I don't care where it is. It may just be my higher baseline for Gilbert. But no, he's to me he's a 5.
Disco, Anthony DeSclafani, he's got a 2.13 ERA. He's got Washington at home, then at Arizona. He'll probably be a popular guy this weekend in a lot of like hometown leagues. I think I'm going to give Anthony DeSclafani a 3 with these matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at 3. I'm deciding to go higher, to be honest.
Deciding whether to go high, yeah.
I'm deciding. I think I'm going to go 4 because I think he's a good pitcher that we downgrade because of injuries. And when he's healthy, he's fine. I mean, to me, Webb's a 5.
Webb's a 5 with those matchups. Yeah, Disco.
I'm going to go
good on him. He really is a guy who, between injuries, pitches really, really well.
Yeah.
So, you look at his numbers like on the whole, and they don't look good. But when he's, because he's always like getting hurt, then struggles for like a start or 2.
And he's been known, even when he's healthy, to have that 4 home run outing.
Mm-hmm.
Not last time. Wasn't it 8 innings last time, or 8 1/3 even maybe.
Something like that, yeah. Miles Michaelis for the Cardinals. Cardinals a huge disappointment so far. They're going to be at the Cubs, then at Boston. I don't really like Michaelis, but I think I'll probably give him a 2 here. I mean, he's got to be better than this, right?
To me, he's like Stroman -1. So if we have Stroman at 3, I'm going to put him at 2.
That is a really good way to look at Miles Michaelis. Stroman -1. McClanahan and Eflin, probably both 5s, right? Has Eflin reached that level for you?
He has, but I don't think at Baltimore and at New York are automatic 5s. I mean, for McClanahan, yes. I think it's still I'm going to say 4, but it's almost. I want to say 5 because I'm a fan of Eflin, but I don't think it properly reflects being on the road, coming from Tampa, which is such a great park, and playing at Baltimore and at New York. So I'm going to say 4. I'm starting Eflin everywhere I can, though.
Baltimore's got a good lineup, but that park is so nice to pitch in. So I'm going to go 5 on Eflin. I just think
I haven't checked. I mean, 1 month is too early, but I'll still until there's enough data to prove otherwise. I think last year is going to turn out to be at the extreme of where Camden Yard plays. As far as I think it's going to pull back. And although, I mean, now you got to say all park factors are different because of the shift and some other things. So we really not comparing, but big picture, I think that we just happen to see an extreme scenario in the first year of his existence, which may skew things. And I talked about this in draft season. And again, although I could use the exercise, they're not victory laps. I thought Baltimore hitters were undervalued because of the park. And Mountcastle has shown that at least thus far.
Yeah, he's been great.
We haven't seen that much from Santander yet. And Hayes has been, so, I can't use Mountcastle as my only, you were right. But I think that's how it's going to play out.
Well, with Eflin and McClanahan, like that at New York Yankees just does not really scare me for the time being. It's that lineup lately without Judge and Stanton. I mean, Willie Calhoun batting cleanup. It's just
they sent
the Bronx Bombers.
Well, on the other hand, the Red Sox are winning games with Raimel Tapia leading off. I think I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago. If the answer is Raimel Tapia, I don't want to know the question. I'm just not a fan.
It's like an offshoot of the old Roddy Piper thing.
Yes.
That's good. John Gray, Andrew Heaney for Texas at Seattle, at Oakland. Pretty nice little two-step there. I think I'm going to go with a 3 on John Gray. Yeah, that seems high off the tongue. Let me double check here. With these matchups, I think so. And then Heaney a 2 for me.
I think they're both 3s, and I may be wish casting on Heaney. I know he didn't pitch well his last time out, but I'm gonna go 3 for both.
Okay, I hear you there. No 2-star pitchers for the Toronto Blue Jays. They have 2 off days next week. So then for the Washington Nationals, Jake Irvin, and didn't really have great numbers at AAA, but he came up and pitched well in his debut. He did have more walks than Ks, so you don't want to say he pitched really well, but good from a run prevention standpoint anyway. Only 2 hits. Any reason you'd think about picking Jake Irvin up? I think I'm going to go 0 here.
Yeah, no, I think I even avoid him in NL only. Mm-hmm. There's some ratio damage to be done. I'm going to go 0 as well.
All right, well, let's recap our 2-star pitcher grades. Let me just double jot down this so that I can have the recap timestamp mentioned here. 56 minutes. Appreciate all of you being with us. All right, 2-star pitcher grades for the week of May 8th, 2023. Zach Gallen's a 5. That's an easy one. Brandon Pfaadt, 3. Charlie Morton, I say 3. Todd, 4. Kyle Gibson, 2. Marcus Stroman, 3. Graham Ashcraft, 3. Tanner Bibee, 4. Kyle Freeland, I say 1. Todd, 0. Dylan Cease, 4. Lucas Giolito, 3. Michael Lorenzen, I say 0. Todd, 1. Framber Valdez, 5. Zach Greinke, 0. Jordan Lyles, 0. Braxton Garrett, a 1. Louie Varland, I say 2. Todd, 1. Max Scherzer, 5. Nestor Cortez, 3. Clark Schmidt, 1. J.P. Sears, 2. Drew Rosinski, 0. Mitch Keller, I say 3. Todd, 4. Michael Wacha, I say 1. Did you say 0 on Wacha? Or you must have said 1 on Wacha.
I think I said 1, but reluctantly.
Yeah, you were
Move on before I change my mind.
Logan Gilbert, I say 4. Todd, 5. Anthony DeSclafani, I say 3. Todd, 4. Logan Webb, 5. Miles Michaelis, 2. Shane Mahanaclan, 5. Zach Eflin, I say 5. Todd, 4. John Gray, 3. Andrew Heaney, I say 2. Todd, 3. Jake Irvin, 0. Real quick, Disco Dave had a question in the chat, wondering, this is not like a ton of context, but which pitcher would you trade out of Shane Bieber, Max Fried, Sonny Gray, Logan Allen, Bailey Ober, Alex Cobb? Tough to say without knowing, what you can.
No, you can't say. I don't want to be a jerk at the end of a podcast, but
no, I get
what are you going to get back? I mean, there's no one. It's like the answer isn't this guy's over his head, so trade him.
Yeah,
it's all what you get back.
I believe what Sonny Gray's doing.
Yes,
but maybe if you think he's going to get hurt, which could very well happen.
Maybe. I mean, there's no, without context, it really can't answer. I mean, maybe we're a little concerned about Bieber. The strikeout rate's really, really low. Mm-hmm. And if you think if there's someone out there that, really thinks that it's really going to bounce back, maybe you can get more for Bieber than what you expect. But there's no kind of, nerdy StatCast answer to the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think, Sonny Gray maybe not the worst sell high right now just because he has always gotten hurt. But I really, love what he's doing. But he'd be maybe the one that I could maybe see if you could get a lot for him. But it is really hard to answer without any context there, Dave. But hopefully you get the best return that you're happy with. Anything else on your mind today, Tier Todd?
Real quick, we'll just plug the Tout Table coming out tomorrow. One of my favorite topics. We always phrase it differently to get a different angle of responses. But I love when we ask the touts about trading tips because they get really passionate. So this week we asked them, what are the biggest mistakes made in trade negotiations? And some clown is up to 4 and counting. I think I'll stop from here and let everybody else get their 2 cents in. But look for that tomorrow on Teltwares.com, what we think some of the biggest mistakes are when you're doing trade negotiations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have to check that out. I really have kind of, I don't know, maybe it's definitely a flaw actually, but I've strayed away from trade talks in recent years just because they never really seem to. I mean, I always have respect for the people I'm talking with, but it always feels like everybody wants to win a trade in a landslide. So it's kind of
that was. I don't know if you looked at the thing. That was the number one.
Wasn't? No, I didn't
mistake,
look at it.
Is that people try to win trades. They don't look at the other gal's roster, and all they're out for is to win the trade and not look for something that is a win-win for both sides. And I think
that's like sometimes it's just a non-starter when you do that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would
why
would I like entertain these discussions further when this was so off from my evaluation.
Exactly. And that's one of the main points talked about, among others. So check that out. Clay, you still have a day if you want to contribute.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure we'll hear your voice on some of the other questions down the road.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Todd, for all the great insight. Thank you all for being with us, and hope you'll join us again next week on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by Rival Fantasy.